Hi, everyone. This is Janet Caleri of Visible Transitions.
Chance Massaro, Memory Back Guarantee.
And Chance is my guest today. He's a brain expert, and we've been doing some work together for the last 3 years. And we're really excited to be here with you because we're going to talk about easy habit formation. And Chance has taught me so much about the brain and how that is related to the visible transitions process, which I developed when I was sick for 5 years. And I had no idea of all the value this process had until I met Chance and we started talking. So the geeky side of me is so happy right now. Okay. Chance, I think you want to talk about focusing on one thing.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that habit formation needs always to be toward. And a lot of people think of getting rid of a bad habit or solving a bad habit. And we want to ask that you're focusing on one thing that you are seeking, not something that you are avoiding, because we want to create we want to create new neural pathways for your brain to have an automatic response that is healthful and empowering for you.
And that's done with the affirmative, not the do not, but the I am and I do versus don't.
Right. So we may ask you to look into your past, but we want to look into our past for examples of strength, examples of success, examples of doing the things that work in our lives.
Great. So let's pause for a moment and just have you choose one thing that you want to focus on, an affirmative goal or a vision, something that you desire. It's not about something you don't want, you're trying to get rid of. That actually causes resistance. And when we're in resistance, there's two types of resistance. And one is an aversion, trying to push something away, and one is an attachment and a craving more of. So we have that dance that's going on inside of us often, and that causes stress in the body. And that is not supporting us to change habits. So let me just start with visible transitions. The methodology that I created was during a 5-year illness, and I began taking pictures of things that I valued, and I began tracking my progress, and I also took pictures of things that I didn't like, things that I resisted. And what I noticed was this deep change in stress, like a reduction in stress, a reduction in anxiety, doubt, depression, and a huge surge of compassion for myself and motivation and clarity and this reclaiming of my power. And I thought, wow, this is really awesome. So I continued to do it and created the results that I wanted. And it was a lot of it was through neurobiology, creating new pathways. Because each time you take a picture of something that you value, visible transitions is about taking photos of things that you value, for example, tracking the progress or things that we resist. But each time you take a picture, click, you're looking through a different lens, pun intended. And it's with the gentle view because it's a creative way to look at the truth. And then you're activating new neurons in the hippocampus. And so let's talk about some neuroplasticity. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I have a document too, but why don't you say some things about that?
Well, what's interesting about the brain, of course, is that it does not, the neurons that you have in the cerebral cortex do not replicate. They don't make new ones of themselves. New neurons are made in the hippocampus. And a lot of what we're talking about is actually extending dendrites on the neurons that you already have. When new ideas, new learning takes place, neurons that are associated with that learning and the sensual whole body way in which those neurons are connecting, they fire together. And you may hear this expression that neurons that fire together, wire together. And what we're talking about is you're looking at one thing, something you're seeking, something that's consistent with your values, something you can do. This is an important piece. When you start moving toward that thing that you seek in step-by-step ways, your body creates two neurotransmitters. One is serotonin and the other is dopamine. So when you're moving toward what you want, your brain is creating and responding to serotonin. And then when you make a step in your own direction, you get a little burst of dopamine, which is that good feeling like I did it, I did something.
So the dopamine is the reward chemical, and the serotonin is the self-esteem, the confidence.
Yeah, confidence.
Okay.
Feeling like I'm moving forward. I'm going towards something that I want.
Yeah. So imagine taking pictures of things that you value or tracking your progress. You're getting all these shots of dopamine and serotonin. So there's this development of feeling good and self-esteem and confidence, which is going to motivate you to keep going.
Right. The thing about taking pictures is that you get, like, all of our neurotransmitters are really not very long lasting. So you get a burst of a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good, and this is where addiction comes from, right? That you do something and you get a burst of dopamine, and then it doesn't last for maybe a couple of minutes, and so you want it again and you want it again. So what we're talking about is when you take a picture that represents some part of what you're seeking, then you have this wonderful focus of your attention, and you get a little spurt of dopamine at that time. When you look at the picture, you get another spurt of dopamine, which is suggesting that you're doing what you want to do and you're empowered to move forward.
Great. And that's why after you take the photos, the next thing I suggest to my clients and my groups is make printouts of the photos, hang them across from the toilet, on your dashboard of your car, at your desk, in places that you are often. So it's that repetitive factor in your subconscious. Hello, Rigel. It's Rigel. Rigel. Hi. Welcome. Well, I think we ought to show some photos of values to give people an example. How's that?
So we're talking about the one thing that you're seeking, the one thing hopefully that you're thinking about this morning as you're looking at this webinar, that you're thinking, I want a particular thing in my life. I want to be able to do a certain thing. I want to follow up in a certain way. So you have a picture that represents something that is a part of that, what you're seeking.
Awesome. Okay. Repetition value of learning. Zoom. Okay, so here's an image of two girls, and a 9-year-old sister is taking this picture. We were on a photo walkabout, and a photo walkabout is when we go walking about or even sitting about, and we take pictures of things that we value, highlights in our coaching session, tracking progress, etc. And the three sisters and I were on the photo walkabout. We were talking about friendship and the values of friendship. One of the values is trust. So that was a value that the sisters said was really important to them in friendship. And my question to them with all my clients is, what does trust look like, or what does XYZ look like? And most people say, I don't know, I have no idea what that looks like. We don't think, because we often don't think this way. And when I was ill for 5 years, that's what I started to do, is I went beyond the writing about it, I went beyond talking about it, and I started to capture things that represented my values. So what does trust look like? They're like, I don't know, Janet. So we were walking about, and after a few minutes, the 9-year-old girl said, I know what trust looks like. Me telling my sister a secret and my sister keeping it. So the two sisters, as you see here, are pantomiming trust.
Now, and a real good thing that what you're doing is you're working with the visual cortex, and it's very, very powerful. The brain does think a lot in pictures. Remember too, that the brain, quote unquote, thinks in feelings as well. And so if you're interested in trust, for example, what you want to complement this visual impact on yourself with the notion that you can remember a time when you trusted. And I thought of an interesting example where you have a muffin recipe, right, for pumpkin muffins or something, right? And you really trust the recipe. So when you pull out the recipe or you do it from memory, there are feelings in your body, feelings of confidence, feelings maybe of warmth or of the ability to succeed, or your product is going to be wonderful. But those feelings show up somewhere in your body, and that is a perfect complement to a visual picture of what the value looks like. So you want to have a multimodal approach to how you're working with yourself.
Multimodal. I really like that.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I love this technique too, because it's something, it really just goes beyond what we typically do as modes, right? We write or talk.
Right.
And it really goes beyond. It creates a visceral experience. It's like, I imagine the moment we click the photo that like the neuron ashes and angels like come through and and come into every cell of the body, and they activate and they're happy and they're bouncing. That's I have to get an animation for this one, I think.
So be nice to ask Rigel, did you when you came to this today, did you have a habit that you wanted to create?
No, I did not. So I could think on that.
Yeah.
We can show a couple more photos while you're thinking about it, not to put you on the spot. Do you want a few minutes?
Sure. I think if I were to think of something, it would be two things that come to mind are getting up early, getting my day started early, and building in weekly time for myself to be in the garden or take a walk or something like that.
Self-care. It's one of my favorite topics.
Right.
Yeah.
Best healthcare is self-care.
Self-care is our best healthcare, and we can only give to others to the degree we're giving to ourselves. And Rigel, so you have a family, yeah?
I do.
Yeah. So for moms, it's often difficult to give to themselves, and there are many ways that we can replenish so that we have more to give to our family, for example. And it's really important, that self-care. So that's an awesome goal. And speaking of starting early in the day, for example, when my sister became a mom, she would she's had this habit for 27 years now, and she would just get up really early, as you're talking about. She would rise really early, and that would be her time for her exercise or gardening or whatever she needed to do, self-care, because she knew she wouldn't get it in for the rest of the day, because being a mom it's tricky, right? It's nonstop.
Rigel, can you begin to think about, are there visual images that would assist you in relation to getting up early? What does getting up early look like for you?
Well, the positive, well, I don't know if this is an image, but it's sort of the feeling of ease and not being rushed. So I don't know, it could be a picture of us sitting down to breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
or having time for morning cuddles, or a picture of us walking out the door at 8 a.m.
All right, all right. These are awesome ideas. I'm going to show you a few examples, and I like yours a lot. So towards the end of this session, I will definitely support you in how you could track progress with breakfast and cuddles and walking out the door. And let me see here. I'm going to show you evidence of progress. So for example, I'm going to show you what I did when I was sick. Speaking of getting out of bed early, so we just don't think about this stuff, but the subtleties make such a huge impact on the psyche. It's amazing. Here's an image of me in bed. It's a selfie of me in bed. You can't see me. I'm under the blankets, but there's a selfie of me in bed. And I was in bed often. So, but I wanted to really, again, look at look at my truth through a different lens, be gentle with myself. Okay, I'm in bed. Then as my vitality began to return, oh, I'm not in the bed anymore. It's a mess, but I'm not in that bed. So Chance, imagine what that did to dopamine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Serotonin. When I took that picture, like I paused, talk about self-care. I took a moment to take a picture of me not in that bed.
Right. So I'd want to be up at a certain time. Maybe I show a picture of the bed and a clock.
Mm-hmm.
It says, I'm not there. I'm somewhere else.
Yep. A screenshot of your phone with the time. And now this bed just happened to be a futon, and I'm explaining that so you understand the next photo because it's a futon. But now you'll see that the bed is made with all my dramatic pillows. The point is that I had my vitality returned enough where I had energy to get out of bed, and then I had energy to make my bed. And acknowledging that activates new neurons, and it activates the dopamine and the serotonin. So now I'm starting to feel good and confident, and that sense of reward. That's my motivator. That's going to keep me going.
So a picture also of you're cuddling with Dennis, or you're cuddling with Zora, or you're just snuggling yourself or something like that would also be very helpful in this. I'm awake at 6:30 or something, and I've got 15 minutes to just snuggle, cuddle, So the things that you want, the things that you're interested in, that your values are moving you toward, those things then become visual images. And you know what it feels like to cuddle. So if you looked at a picture of you cuddling and you said, oh yeah, I know how that feels, that's going to be a motivator. And you're going to have a lot of neurochemicals, neurotransmitters firing in your brain and throughout your body.
So let's talk about that in terms of repetition value and how long it really takes to create and form a habit.
Well, this is why you mentioned when you develop a picture, you put it around, you put it where you can see it, and it reminds you. And every time you look at the picture, there is a small release of dopamine. Yep, that's me. That's me. That's how I do things. And it continually reinforces what you're seeking, the values that you are putting into practice.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the billboards.
Yeah.
You drive back and forth to work, for example, and your subconscious is picking up on the same image. Yeah. Wonderful. Let's. I'm going to show you a couple of other examples. Okay, so
I love this one.
Yeah, so this was a woman I worked with a rare form of cancer. She is cancer-free and thriving. Yay! So we tracked her progress. We never focused on her cancer going away because that would be resistance. No, that causes more stress in the body. And we tracked her progress. Here is an example of all her medications in the beginning of our 1.5 years together. And I'm going to show you 3 dramatic changes, but just keep in mind that in between these 3 images are many other images of the pill bottles. Okay, so here's the beginning, and here is the middle. That was halfway, probably like 9 months later. Mm-hmm.
So just 1 syringe and 3 bottles.
Yeah. And then, I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, this picture took about 15 seconds to do. We got a piece of paper, we drew the arrow, we drew the happy face, and then she was down to 1 pill, you can see on the left, and then a half pill. At this time, she was down to a half pill. So imagine what this image, creating this image, did for her. And the great thing about visible transitions process is it's low maintenance, low cost, there's no cost, and very short time investment. And again, grab a piece of paper, draw an arrow, happy face, place the pills down, snap the picture. Dopamine, serotonin, compassion, looking at the truth, right? She's developing more compassion, and then she makes a print of it, and then she gets more of her surge on dopamine, her dope surge, and her serotonin. Yeah, just imagine how she felt when she saw this.
So is this connecting with you at all? Does this seem logical or useful in some ways?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it resonates a lot with sort of the ideas of visualizing where you want to be and then celebrating your victory. And I think is when I can recall times in my life where I've done that, and the positive reinforcement is so motivating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And have there been times in your past when you have successfully gotten up early and done all the stuff that you wanted to do, say, for example, for yourself, and we're out the door at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, right. And Dennis and I say, like, oh, that was great. Let's do that more often.
Right. So the more you focus on, oh, that was great, you also notice how it feels inside.
Mm-hmm.
And if you add a little oxytocin to that and have a kiss or a hug as a result of saying that's great, then you really magnify the total body response to your success.
Awesome.
Including another person. So we're talking about a visual thing, then we're talking about a sensuous thing. How does something feel in your body, your heart, your lungs, your guts, your neck, your musculature. But if you're sharing this with somebody else, then it's a great idea to have a hug or a little dance. Look, we did it. Yay, we did it, right? So then you have this, again, back to multimodal, visual, emotional, and connecting, socially, connecting to another person.
Mm-hmm. And that's reminding me of curiosity, which is the foundation of visible transitions. And I'm bringing it up because, Chance is talking about staying focused on the feeling, like how that felt, versus obligation. Oh, I have to. I need to.
I should.
I ought.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, all of that is resistance energy, resistance mindset. And in resistance, we have aversion, attachment. We're creating stressors in the body.
The easy way to remember that is what you resist
Persists.
persists.
What I resist persists. Yeah. So curiosity is a great, it's actually a value of mine, and it's a great way to approach life. There's no stress, no anxiety, no doubt, no fear, no worry. It's this childlike wonder, this playfulness that opens things up rather than like the constricting, I want to hide energy. So when you're in curiosity, just think about a child, right? They don't have filters and worries. They're just really open, and they're moving through life with more smiles than we are. So
The other
thing, well, I just want to say,
Right.
so when you start this 45 days or 21 days,
45 days.
when you start the 45 days, right, Jill, really come from the place of curiosity.
So here's what I wanted to say about this.
Okay.
One of the very interesting things that helps the brain strengthen is confusion. Not knowing is a fabulous motivator. So when you say to yourself, what does X feel like? Or what does X look like? Oftentimes the first response you have is, I don't know. What does trust look like? I don't know, right? And then what happens if you stay with it, your brain begins to have these connections to look for what does it look like or what does it feel like? And that is extraordinarily helpful and healthful for the brain because it's using curiosity as a way of exercise. It's actually a mental exercise. The closest thing you can think about is in relation to a riddle. Like you say, forward I am heavy, but backward I am not. You say, oh, what could that be about? Well, when you're trying to think about what's the answer to that, you're actually strengthening your brain. So the same thing occurs when you're curious about something you're seeking and you don't know what it looks like, or you don't know what it feels like, or you don't know what the celebration might look like. But that you are seeking it is going to make your brain look around. Well, what does trust look like? What does friendship look like? What does getting up early in the morning and having time to myself? What does that look like? And that's really positive for the brain because you're building the neural pathways that are going to make this into a habit.
And you're also in acceptance when you're in curiosity, not the why me curiosity, but as Chance was saying, you're in acceptance. Okay. And again, that's creating more ease on the body, more ease in the brain, and more ease to navigate life, and especially in transitions, which is my specialty. We want to have more, I think we all want to have more ease and joy because transitions are fundamental. And changing our habits or making a new habit or a mindset is essential when we're in life changes. Mm-hmm. How about some questions? Do you have any questions, Rigel?
I mean, a lot of this feels somewhat familiar, considering who raised me and who I have some relatively frequent contact with. But I think it's my sense is it takes some, intention and groundwork in terms of the framing and the visuals, and then you can really set yourself up to succeed if you're able to, kind of get the framework in place and get those habits. Like, what do you do when you do well to help reinforce doing well, and really make sure it's something that is rewarding to you, so that it does build on itself, right? So no, I don't. I mean, it definitely makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, we often focus on what we don't want or what we're resistant to. And that, again, is just causing us to, it causes a block and an obstacle for what we want. Maybe we'll show her and the viewers a picture, a resistance photo, and show them how to become a neutral observer.
Oh, I think this is neat stuff here. How do you become a neutral observer of something, so that it diffuses negative impressions?
Yeah. Okay. What I want you to do is say the first thing that came to your mind when you looked at this photo. There's no right or wrong, and don't change it. Just tell me what you thought of.
Blame and defensiveness.
Great. Okay. So you answered the question like 99% of people do. What you did was you took in data through your eyes and you made up a story. And that's how we navigate life. We look around, or we hear, we smell, we touch, we taste, and we make up a story. It's a beautiful day outside because we're looking in the sun. Oh, it's a beautiful day. Or the rain, it's raining. Oh, this rain is making me feel lousy. You know, we walk into somebody's house and think it's neat or it's a mess or something of that nature. Or, for example, when I was sick, I walked into the kitchen after 3 days of being in bed and saw this massive mess of pile of pots and pans and crusty, stinky dishes for 3 days long. And I flipped out and I was criticizing myself. But what I did was what you and most people do is I looked at something and I made up a story. What happens is we make up a story, blame or defense, for example, and then we most often believe the story. And
it creates an emotional response.
Then it creates an emotional response, and then we suffer. So we're either resistant to it, we don't want it, or we want more. That's the suffering, okay? And I'm sure you'll agree with me, chances. Don't always believe what you think. Don't always believe what you hear. Don't always believe what you see. Yeah. Now, I'm going to take you through a process right now that you can take into your own life, because when we're working towards a goal, or we have a big life change that we're currently in, or one that's coming up, we often have resistance to what is. Like, oh, for example, oh man, I didn't get up early enough this morning for my self-care, and there's this aggravation and frustration. Okay, what we do here is we become a neutral observer of what is, and if you actually put this practice into place for 45 days straight, you're going to begin to navigate life with more curiosity versus reaction. Okay, so we want more curiosity and fascination and wonder than reaction. And so, again, you saw this image, I saw the pile of mess on in my kitchen sink, and I had a reaction, a trigger. What we do here is we look at something and we call out the objects. We don't give any adjectives to what we see. We don't give any descriptions to what we see. And this is going to help us create habits too, right? Because we're diffusing the trigger, we're diffusing
we're suspicious of our
the resistance. Yeah. And we get into a place of curiosity, which really, that supports us in making a habit. Because that evokes some dopamine and serotonin, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Okay, so for example, so just tell me something that you see in this picture without describing it. And it feels awkward at first because we're not used to it.
I see two people. I see a couch. I see jewelry and nice clothes. And
okay, so just clothes. Instead of nice clothes, just say clothes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awkward because we're always putting something,
Always putting a value
a
on
value on
a
something.
judgment.
Right. And we could get really specific and go earring, necklace, nose, mouth, eye, eyelashes, eyebrow, hair, ear, finger, thumb, palm, sweater, lip, nose. So you can see how that diffuses the story, right? Yeah. And if you do this practice, which feels awkward, but if you do this practice, which I did that day, I was so upset with myself, and I literally I didn't want to live. I hated my life so bad at that point. And I thought, what can I do to change this around to get motivated? So that's what I did. I took a picture of the kitchen sink mess, and I did the practice that I just showed you. And if you do this practice for 45 days straight, you're going to notice a reduction in frustration with things. You're going to notice that you're being with things more than trying to make them different. Because when we're resistant, we're wanting life to be different. And again, that's not going to help with easy habit formation.
It's a neutral involvement. So it allows you much more freedom than an immediate, oh, this is blame and defensiveness, right? So we don't see it anymore. So we're not looking at it anymore.
And then we're more connected with ourselves, our intuition, solutions. We're more connected with people we care about.
Yeah.
We're more connected with what's in front of us. Therefore, we're more present. And when we're more present, easy habit formation.
Right.
Yep.
Because the easy habit formation is to keep in mind what we seek, what we want, getting out of bed early. And every time there is a success, there's a lot of support for it. There's a lot of curiosity about it. There's a lot of internal feelings about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As opposed to some
playful
knee-jerk thing that says, oops, I didn't
right,
do it
and
again.
That blocks.
Right.
It blocks. It's like a stubborn block. So Rigel, I think for you, taking pictures of you in bed, and a quick snap of you in bed, and then out of bed, and including a clock, so it's showing your bed with you not in it, and the time. And this process requires really accessing your creativity.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's really fun. And it's not time consuming. In the beginning, it might feel a little time consuming, but in general, it's not. So picture your bed without you in it, in the time. And as you were saying, a photo of you at breakfast, cuddling is great. This is a great, not only is it documenting evidence of progress, but as Chance said, it's activating oxytocin. Yeah, and I love the idea of you walking out the door, or even, your hand with the key to your door, or sitting in the driver's seat of your car, and noting the time with that. So there's all these little subtleties. Like, I get so excited about it because it's fun and it's easy, but these little subtleties are going to have a massive impact on your neurobiology. Yeah. And who doesn't want to have more fun in their life?
And the other piece is, since much of your time is spent with Dennis, then he becomes included in this whole process. So when he notices you're doing what you intend to do, he will give you feedback. And you can just take a picture of him saying, honey, that was great. You got up and did what you wanted to do this morning. I'm proud of you. Right? So that again, we're looking at this kind of universe of the human being, and this concept that we're interested in, which is multimodal ways of managing our hormones and neurotransmitters. So that we've got visual, we've got feelings, we've got social kinds of things happening. all focused on what you're seeking, the life you're seeking.
So it's 12:20, and Rigel, based on our time together today, did you create value, and do you want to share that?
Yeah, I have some ideas for how to move forward and have a really positive and kind of fun game-like approach to my goals. Yeah, I think too it makes sense in our situation for Dennis and I to kind of do it together, since we do all this together. It doesn't really make as much sense for me to be doing it on my own. Yeah, I was going to say something when you guys were talking. I totally blanked. Something really reminded me of. No, it'll come back to me. But yeah, no, I feel like it's. I think Zora would also have fun with it. Like, you know,
I work with kids,
taking, and
yeah,
she loves all that stuff. So
I work with kids, and they love this.
Mm-hmm.
They love it.
Yeah.
Kids learn better with the hands-on, but it's playful, and it can keep you in your playful mindset as well.
Yeah, and for her, like getting out the door at a certain time is it's totally. But all the pieces of it in the pictures, she would really get into that part, and the celebration of it she'd love that.
How old is she?
3.
Mm-hmm. That's an awesome idea. Great. And well, I want to tell you that coming up on April 12th, I'm offering this online Zoom classroom for 3 months. It's a momentum program that's going to assist people in documenting their values and tracking progress and reducing resistance to what is. And of course, that's going to increase confidence and motivation and presence and evoke more dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, but really help people succeed in meeting their goals and succeed in experiencing more ease and joy and transition, and also diffusing triggers. So we were talking about being in curiosity versus being in reaction and trigger. And your dad is, he's going to be a special guest in the class as well. And maybe even a participant, but he's definitely going to be a special guest. And so is that something you might be interested in? I could send you more info if you'd like.
You could send me more info. Yeah, that's going to be right during my maternity leave, so I'm not making any promises about that time at this moment. But yeah,
could be a pretty busy time.
It's a pretty busy time. Yeah.
Well, the program is only 9 hours total, so it doesn't interrupt your flow. It's so it's a minimal time investment with a lot of lifetime learning.
A lot of support.
A lot of support.
And you would be following up with your own pictures and.
Yeah, it's ongoing support, ongoing structure, being active with a community, a small community, and there's so much magic in that. So thanks for coming today.
Yeah, Rigel, thanks for coming and joining us.
Sure.
That's really awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you both.
You're welcome.
You're so welcome. And this has been recorded, so I'm going to share it and get you a link.
Great. Wonderful.
Okay. Thanks
All right.
so much.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Janet Caleri, Chance Massaro.